Hey, Saucy but Sweet fam. This episode is for those who, like me, grew up in the early 2000s and fell in love with Alicia Keys. Not just for her soulfulness, but her unique R&B presence in the industry. And let me tell you, anytime Teenage Love Affair, If I Ain't Got You, or Fallen came on, I immediately think back to my childhood. And I am brought back to the good old days where Alicia Keys was everywhere. You couldn't go to the corner store without hearing Alicia Keys. Really, this episode is a love letter to Alicia Keys for being the voice for so many Black girls like me. This is someone who gained so much success just for being her authentic self and being the Black girl from New York with a dream. Sound familiar? For those who don't know, I am also a Black girl from New York. And like her, I grew up in Manhattan. While she grew up in Hell's Kitchen, I grew up on the Upper East Side. And even though my dream was not to get into music, we both have big dreams and did not necessarily grow up with a ton of money. And so, to all my New York listeners, if you're interested in seeing where Miss Alicia Keys grew up, I'm sure you've passed by it. If you've ever been in Hell's Kitchen area, you'll see that she grew up in Manhattan Plaza. You really can't miss it. And like me, she's a multi-hyphenate. Alicia is a musician, entrepreneur, and the creator of the groundbreaking Tony Award-winning musical Hell's Kitchen. I had the honor of bringing the two most important women in my life to see the musical, and I left speechless. Absolutely speechless, which is a rare thing for someone like me. So stay tuned to hear my take. You are now listening to Saucy but Sweet with Ali McPherson, a podcast where nothing is off limits, where we talk about everything from romance, sex, pop culture, and everything in between. Sit back, relax, and enjoy an unfiltered time where we keep it sweet and always saucy. Bam. So I know I said I was speechless after watching Hell's Kitchen, and I was. But I think by now I found the words to describe the experience. And for those who have not seen the show and who do not want any spoilers, feel free to skip this episode and watch it a later time because you have to see it. For those who are not from New York, I don't know, book a trip and see the show. So before I attended the show, I had pretty high expectations for it, not only because it was Tony Award winning, but because everything Alicia Keys touches turns to gold. And I mean that. After decades in the industry, she is still a household name. And when I learned that she created a musical based on her own life, I knew I wouldn't disappoint. Gianna Harris played Ali, and that was the main character who basically represents Alicia Keys. And then Tank, the R&B singer, some of you might know, played her dad. And Kelsey Simmons, who was amazing, played Ali's mom, so basically Alicia Keys' mom. And this show in particular was Gianna's final bow as Ali, and let me tell you, she slayed. Basically, we were introduced to Ali, who was the average teen. She wants to hang out with her friends, outside of Manhattan Plaza, flirt with cute boys, and not constantly have her mom breathing down her throat. Who hasn't been there, right? And, just to explain more about Manhattan Plaza, it's basically an affordable housing, you know, building for artists. And so, for the beginning, we get a sense of how vibrant and artistic her neighbors are. And, there's a scene where she's in an elevator and it basically just kind of gives a sense of like the neighbors different, like the different artistry that the neighbors have. Like neighbor might play the violin, one might play the piano, and so it kind of goes through that. So that's really cool to see. And throughout the play, we hear of many of Alicia Keys' hits. And, I'm not going to embarrass myself and start singing them, but I think you guys know her biggest hits. And so Ali and her friends sing You Don't Know My Name when a cutie catches Ali's attention. And she ends up falling in love with him. And by the way, his name is Nuck. And Nuck is fine as hell, y'all. Anyway, Nuck is a cute bad boy, but deep down is a vulnerable man. And as the play goes on, we really learn more about his background and who he is, and that he's not really that bad boy, dark dude that we kind of assumed he was in the beginning. And Ali learns that too, because in the beginning, she kind of just saw him as a bad boy, and that's why she wanted him. But, she really fell in love with who he was, and he fell in love with her. The age difference is a big issue, which is something he didn't know, because she hid that from him. But definitely, the age difference is a big thing that would, keep them from really being together. And let me tell you, her mom, Jersey, is the most soulful woman on stage. It was amazing seeing Jersey go from being an overbearing mom to a woman who will sing you right off the stage, honey. And at the same time, we start to see that Jersey herself fell in love and got her heart broken and did the best she could to raise Allie and give her the best life possible. Also, where the emotional part comes in was to see how close Allie got to her piano teacher, who became the mother figure she wanted. And she seemed to really soften Allie from having walls around her at all the time and being on edge. And, her piano teacher basically became her support system. And this relationship with her piano teacher played a huge role in her beginning to open up to her actual mom. And, the scene where Allie and her mom sang No One to each other, which is one of Alicia Keys' most well-known hits, put tears in my eyes. And at the end of it all, the show was a love letter to Allie and her mom. It was also so relatable because most of us have had the rebellious teen phase and viewed our parents as overbearing and hard to handle. Um, but we realized that they really did the best that they could with what they had. And the show sets up to be about romantic love. We think Allie's just trying to get Nuck and all of that stuff, but really it's about family and how integral. It's really about family and how important family is to how we move through the world. It was also a love letter to New York City, where, we could become anything we want to be. And as a native New Yorker, it really just hit home for me, literally. And what I loved most about the show was that it was funny. It was emotional. It didn't try to be provocative or controversial just for the hell of it. Like, it actually dug deep and it actually just was so entertaining. And you could feel Alicia Keys throughout the entire thing. And it might not be the kind of play you take your kids to because, there were references to sex and some explicit language. But it's a great play to see with the fam. And let me tell you, I was grooving the whole time. I mean, grooving. So if you ask me, the play was a 10 out of 10. We'll be right back with Saucy but Sweet with Ali McPherson. Are you ready to become the best version of yourself and live your best life? Are you tired of feeling stuck in your career, relationship, and your day-to-day routine? It all begins with you. In order to give your best, you have to become your best self. Stop living by default and create the life you want. I remember when there was a time where I felt like I had no control over my life. And the best life coach / relationship coach to help me put my life back together was Odette Godinel. If you are a hardworking, independent, successful woman who lacks energy, focus, and direction, feels overwhelmed, stressed, and anxious, thinks there's never enough time, puts your well-being at the bottom of your priority list, feels a lack of connection in your marriage or relationship, feels stuck and afraid of change, Odette can help. You don't have to keep struggling, and you don't have to figure it out alone. Odette has found the tools to learn how to stop living by default and start creating the life and the relationship she wanted, and help countless clients do the same. Visit www.odettegodinel.com. She will definitely change your life. Now, before we go, I would be remiss if I didn't review the latest Netflix series, Forever. The show was created by Mara Brock Akil, who some of you might know. She was the creator of some of my faves like Girlfriends and The Game, and to any of you who might remember Being Mary Jane. She created that too. Forever is an adaptation of Judy Blume's book titled Forever, and I know Judy Blume was one of my favorite authors growing up, so definitely had to check it out for that as well. In this adaptation, two former childhood friends, Justin and Keisha, reunite as teens and fall fast and hard in love. But their love story is anything but smooth. It is rocky from the beginning because Keisha is still holding on to a betrayal that took place in her last relationship, where a sex tape was shared by her former partner. This makes it hard for her to truly open up to Justin. But as the show goes on, she realizes Justin is the one. Justin also is described as neurodivergent and a very highly emotional man. Oftentimes, he finds himself making Keisha his entire world. They both lose their virginity to each other, and it is clear that they've broken new ground by entering this relationship. Watching this, it's impossible not to think about your first love, the person you lost your virginity to, and the person you probably thought you'd spend the rest of your life with. I know I thought about it while I was watching this show. Also, the visuals are quite breathtaking. The show takes place in LA, and to be exact, and to be clear, the show is not just a black love story, but a love letter to LA. Mara, who was born in LA herself, has a way of captivating the beauty of the city, from Justin's elite LA neighborhood to Keisha's working class neighborhood. And don't get me started with the soundtrack. The show should win an award from the exceptional soundtrack alone of hip hop and R&B tracks, incorporating artists like Tyler the Creator, SZA, and Frank Ocean. And not to be a bummer, but if there is one criticism that I have of the show, I would say it was a series finale. At the end, Justin and Keisha realize that they're better off as friends. Not exactly the ending I was hoping for, and also not too believable because I know that they're in love. And even the last scene where they're together, for dinner one last time, there was chemistry there, and it was hard to believe that that would be the end of their story. But it has been confirmed that Forever will return for season 2. So I guess I'm right. I guess their love story will continue and it is not over. I know I'll definitely be watching. And that's all for this week. Thanks for tuning in to Saucy but Sweet with Ali McPherson. See you next time.